Hello class, I'd like to talk to you about MLA citation formatting. First, we'll talk about the works cited. Your works cited page is going to be a list of the sources that you've used in your paper. So when you're ready to set up that list, make sure you start a brand new page at the end of your paper. So even if you just have one word on page 3, you still want to move to page 4 so that the works cited will be on its own page. At the top of that page, you're going to type works cited, and you're going to make sure it's centered, just like the title of your paper on the first page, and don't change anything else about the formatting. You also want to make sure you're maintaining your double spacing. When you have more than one source, you want to make sure you alphabetize your list. And finally, you want to create a hanging indent, which is essentially the opposite of a paragraph. So your first line is going to be justified left, and everything after that is going to be indented by a tab. On that list, you'll start with the author, last name, first name, then you'll have the title of your website or your article or your book, and then you'll have information on the container, which is going to vary depending on what type of source you're using. You might be using an anthology, a journal in a database. You might be using a website or conducting an interview. So these are all different types of sources you want to figure out how to cite on your works cited page. This is an example of what a works cited page might look like. The first citation is from the Wake Tech English 111 Reader, which is an anthology. The second citation is from a database on the library server. So these are two different examples of what your citations might look like, and then just notice that they're also in alphabetical order. Here's an example of what can happen when you use citation generators. So be careful when you use those. It's okay to use them as a starting point, but you need to go back and double check what they have set up. So in this example here, you'll see from our library database, when I told it to create a citation, this is what it created for this particular source. However, this is what it should look like if it's MLA 8th edition. So you can see there's some pretty significant differences there, and that's why you need to always double check your citation if you're using a citation creator to do that for you. Next, we want to talk about in-text citations. So with in-text citations, you do want to provide those in your papers, your research papers. Here's just a few reasons why they create vivid, and the quote itself might have vivid and expressive language. You couldn't have said it better, so you want to use that person's words. It might be a technical document, so for technical accuracy, you use the author's words. It also might be that that person's article, book, lends weight to your argument, so you would want to use that to boost your credibility. However, you still have to keep most of the paper in your own words, right? We're interested in what your ideas are, and then the citations are just to enhance your ideas and back up your ideas. When you're creating your in-text citations to tell us where the sources came from, think of it as a shortcut to your works cited list. So you're going to have a signal phrase that includes the author's name, then you're going to have your quote, and then at the end you're going to have a page number. So the author's name is going to take us to your works cited page. If we know their first and last name, we can go down your alphabetical list and quickly find the source. And then once we find that source, we'll know what page number to go to look at the quote. The signal phrase that you're going to use for your quotations needs to include 3 different things. You want to have your author's name, first and last, if it's the first time you've mentioned them. You want to provide their credentials to show that they're an authority in the field. And then also you want to use present tense verbs to set up their quotes. Sometimes we want to leave words out of quotes. So what do we do if we want to leave words out of the original quotes? We use the ellipses, the series of 3 dots, to show that we've taken words out. Just make sure when you're taking words out that aren't necessary to support your point, you don't want to change the original meaning of the quote, so be very careful of that. Also, you might be adding words to quotes. Anytime you add a word to a quote, you want to put brackets around it. That will indicate that you've added words and it wasn't part of the original quote. Reasons you might do this, You might be trying to clarify a reference. You might be trying to make it make grammatical sense to fit in with the flow of your sentence. You might be changing a letter from capital to lowercase or vice versa. And also, if the original quote had a spelling error, you can put the little stick here in the brackets, and that will show that it wasn't your error in typing, but that was actually part of the original source. Hopefully these notes have helped you get a better understanding of how to do your works cited page and your in-text citation, and I look forward to seeing how you put that into play in your papers. Take care.